Today we're going to do a hand cleaning of a pair of Passap locks. This is what we do when something is not dirty enough to really need the deep soak and lengthy process with the Marble Mystery Oil, but when it does need some attention. And there might be some other people who feel like their lock needs this too. So we're going to get into them, clean them, and get back out of them and film the process so that you can do the same. First thing that comes off is the handle. This is on the front lock. These button covers pull off easily, and they need to be pulled off in order to get the cover off. Also the NX button cover, no problem there. In this little video clip, I'm fumbling and getting this wrong. The left and right buttons should first be depressed. Then the center button, as far as it can be pushed without performing its release function, because we want them all a little bit depressed. With that done, the ends will flex away from the works of the machine and pop off easily. But first, Jack is going to show you how to get the row counter stuff off. Of course, row counter and handle are only present on the front lock.
All right, this is one that I just pulled out. Notice the split in the peg.
Yes.
And it squeezes together, and there's a little tang right there where my little finger is, and that tang goes in the slot that you see in there.
So it's important for us to remember.
Right, but now it takes a quick
You can tell by
twist
looking,
and a snatch.
but they just don't go in any old way.
No, they do not. Now, if you'll notice, there's serrations on the pliers, but there's serrations on the knob. So the thing to do is pinch and pull.
Okay.
And see, you don't distort the knob because it's already got striations on it if you're really careful and you just make a quick pull. We'll do
No grappling and twisting.
No, one more time. See, just a quick pop. What it is this end squeezes in and pops back out. You see there's a little collar area right there. So it's just a quick little pull and it'll come right out. And then you've done the hard part.
I've loosened the tabs on the end.
Right.
And that's on the film.
And here's the button that you have to work around.
Yeah, that's where I was struggling when you came in and said you wanted to play.
Okay, there you go. You see how I did that?
No.
The most flex on this is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the button that you could partly depress if you're careful without the others coming up, so you kind of pull out and press in and you'll feel it slip right over.
And because it doesn't have the connecting arm, this is the front lock. The back lock is easier.
Right. Now, let me just say this. The older these lock covers get, the more brittle they become.
They're very brittle.
And the thing I've seen the most is these tabs right here broken off.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the cover's just sitting there, rattle, rattle, rattle.
Right.
There's a trick to doing this. You learned it this time, but make gravity work for you. See, most people want to turn it over like this, and they want to pull this side loose and then pull that side loose. And what did we do yesterday? Pulled this side loose when we went to this side locked back again.
Uh-huh.
And that's what happens. So what you want to do is get used to doing it from the top and flex the middle. See, the middle's always the most flexible spot.
Now, we have repaired one or two when they arrived splintered, and it held okay because it is just cowling, really.
Right. But it's better if we're just careful, and then we can keep it like it came.
This particular lock has not been giving any trouble, so I'm just going to do a routine cleaning. I took it off because the back lock was giving trouble. It does seem like a good idea to have them both cleaned simultaneously. And if you look closely, while not filthy, you can certainly see some fibers, and it's a bit dry. So I'm going to clean those fibers out, any other debris that's lurking, and lubricate. We've been doing the cleaning with LPS1. We usually finish up with the LPS food grade. Both of these things were recommended to us by a mechanical engineer after we gave them information about knitting machines, and they did some research. And we've now used them for decades and been pleased. The one is more cleansing, and the silicone is more of a persistent lubricant, but both do some of the same job. If you have other things you prefer to use and you don't like these, that is okay. It's your call. You just need to make certain that the solutions you're using are both safe for you and safe for all of the materials on your machine, whatever they might be. And another thing is that some people use denatured alcohol to clean, and it's a good cleaner, but you do have to have some lubricant in there. This doesn't look like the old-fashioned lubricant because it's very thin and see-through. Nevertheless, metal-to-metal action requires lubricant. Of course, these aren't the things that Passap used originally. They had us using Bellador oil, which was one of the things we provided the chemical engineer who helped us to compare. And her statement was that her research showed it was a highly refined, low-tacking oil, meaning that it did not have any impurities to speak of in it. It was still quite liquid at room temperature, and tacking is there to keep it adhering to the metal, but it's not good in a knitting machine because that would also make it gather fuzz. So that's why Passap was a big fan of Bellador oil. But also, after all this time, it was a great lubricant, but after all this time, it does tend to make the yellowish glaze as it breaks down that you've seen me needing to clean off, and that glaze can slow down the action. So that's why we are using what's presently available. If you want to use the old stuff, feel free. The cleaning process can take a while. It consists of spraying in your cleaning solution, scrubbing with the least aggressive tool that will do the job. So I start with a toothbrush, find that it pulls out a good bit of fiber. It removes old glazing from grease that is past its prime. It just generally gets out the nastiness, but the steel wool is necessary to get off some more hardened deposits. I've speeded this up because in real time it would be a very boring video to watch, but it can take quite a while. It might take as little as half an hour, but it might take up to 4 hours. So we tend to alternate spraying in the solvent, scrubbing a bit, peering into it, picking out bits of crud, and then pretty generously rinsing with the cleaning solution. You have to keep alternating because more and more keeps getting loosened up and washing out. And although it's almost impossible to get it perfect, do keep in mind that anything left inside may slow down the action, and that makes a knitting machine run poorly. So this is the time to give it some real elbow grease and patience. Here you see me polishing off a wide, flat area that's just dingy. The dinginess is usually oxidized Bellador oil on an old Passap like this. This is a brass brush selected because brass is not as hard as steel, so it won't scratch or change the surface of the steel, only get off the oxidized oil. It's important to balance the value of cleanliness and pulling out every little bit of crud, which is very important, with the equally important feature of not distorting anything on the machine, scratching anything so that it might make an uneven surface, or changing its original shape. Good as new is not always an option. But in short, we want it as clean as we can possibly get it without damaging or changing anything. Once that's happened, it's time to check every function and put it back together. So, A, B, C, D, it moves only one of these slides. And I can definitely feel that it's easier than, say, B, which has to move both of them. And much more difficult than C, which moves none. D. E doesn't require any pushers. All it moves is this. No action here. Easy as pie. F does, so we have to move this, and we'd expect it to be a little heavier work, and it is. G doesn't respond to pushers, but I think H does. So one of these slides moves. So they're not going to feel exactly the same as one another because they are in fact performing different functions. So Jack is going to put the covers back on the locks for you. They're almost the same as each other, the two locks, but of course the front lock has the handles and the extension that joins it to the back lock. So make sure that you're trying to put the right cover on the right lock. Pop the plastic into position by flexing it in the same way that you took it off, but in reverse. Replace all the handles and button covers and knobs, remembering that those row counter knobs have striations on them that have to be aligned. Don't forget that there are washers under the heads of the screws that put the handle on. If they popped off, you'll need to go looking for them. Guess how I know? If you have any trouble with the little knob covers that go onto the row counter, go back to the beginning of the video where Jack explained that in good detail, and you'll be able to get those back on as he is doing here. Slide all the button covers back in position on those arrow key buttons and the release button in the center of it. As far as we can tell, those are all just alike, but they have to be aligned just so in order to slide on. And with that done, you're ready to go knit again. It should be a lot easier than it was before this was cleaned.